You've entered BOOKSTORM with Kristen Civiletto and me, Chris Storm. This is a podcast devoted to best-selling books that matter, books that make a difference. We're diving down deep with beloved authors about their stories. We're exposing hot-button topics and heartfelt themes, the issues that affect each of us in our own lives, as siblings, parents, partners, friends, as human beings. We're braving new ideas, fresh thoughts, hard lessons, and important truths. Those kinds of things that stay with us long after we turn the last page and close the book. Well, welcome back, book lovers and BOOKSTORM podcast listeners. We have been listening to you because one of you wrote in and said, you've got to read this book, Violin Conspiracy by Brendan Slocumb. Kristen and I did, and we not only love it, we think it should be read by every high school and college student, and we're thrilled to have the author, Brendan Slocumb, with us today. Brendan, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, afternoon, whatever it is. Yes. Hi.
I want to tell our listeners a little bit about you before we get started, because your bio is very impressive and also inspirational. When Brendan was 9 years old, he started playing violin through a public school music program. And Brendan says, and I'm going to quote, it actually saved his life. He had friends who grew up today, sitting in jail. Because when he was rehearsing Mozart, they were running on the streets. Brendan believes that music is a life-saving force and a gift that we should always offer our children. That's a beautiful truth. He went on to be a graduate of UNC at Greensboro with a degree in music education, concentrations in violin and viola. He was a concertmaster for the University Symphony Orchestra and served as principal violinist. For the past 23 years, Brendan has been a public and private school music educator from kindergarten to 12th grade, teaching general music, orchestra, and guitar. He was named Teacher of the Year. He has been named the Who's Who of American Teachers. He is a Nobel Teacher of Distinction. He serves as an educational consultant for the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. He has performed on violin with the Washington Metropolitan Symphony, the McLean Symphony, the Prince George's Philharmonic, and the Alexandria Symphony. He currently serves as concertmaster for Nova Annandale Symphony Orchestra. And I have to mention this. While doing all of these amazing things, he is also the founder of a wonderful nonprofit organization called Hands Across the Sea, based in the Philippines. It offers support to the Berea School of Arts in Manila by providing instruments, lessons, monetary support, school supplies, dental, and even medical assistance. Wow. Thank you for all of that, Brendan. In his spare time, of course, he enjoys writing. We're grateful for that. Exercising, collecting comic books, action figures, and I thought this was very cool, performing in his rock band, Geppetto's Wood? German
Yes.
word, yes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Brendan, we're thrilled to have you. Kristen and I adore this book. We cannot wait to dive deep into this beautiful, important story.
You know, I tell you, that intro, that was really impressive. Who is that guy? I'd like to meet him.
Well, we are thrilled. And I will tell you, we kind of like to start off, Brendan, by talking a little bit about some of the facts of the book. And I don't like to give away spoilers. And it's kind of hard in this story because there is a very thrilling mystery that unravels. But if you'll allow me. In the story, Ray is a senior in high school with lofty aspirations. His mother doesn't understand her son's obsession with the fiddle, his violin, and she wants him to graduate early so he can get a job and help pay the bills. But he loves playing the violin. He plays it well. And in fact, if he were a white student, he would be considered a prodigy and be more supported. As it was, he was not taken seriously, including by the educators at his school. In the beginning, there's only one person who really believes in Ray, and that is his beloved grandmother, Nora. She delights in his musical gift, and in fact, at some point, she gives him a fiddle that belonged to her grandfather, referred to as Pop Pop, and they find it in the attic, they bring it out, and he starts learning to play even better on this beautiful, although it doesn't look it, fiddle. This fiddle, her Pop Pop, was an enslaved person. And part of that story is woven throughout your beautiful story. And again, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but that's very important for some of these background facts. Ray develops a mentor, another person, educator who believes in him. He attends college, he becomes a classically trained violinist, and he begins to perform around the country, earning accolades and developing his gift. At some point, he decides to enroll to compete in the Tchaikovsky competition, which is an extremely prestigious competition that's going to be held in Moscow. Moscow, right, in Russia?
Correct.
Okay. And 2 weeks before the competition, his beautiful violin, which isn't what it seems, it's actually something very priceless, disappears. And so this story just adds on the thrills and adds on the thrills. The law enforcement are brought in, but the question is, where do they even begin? There are so many people who would love to get their hands on this fiddle and stop Ray in his tracks. Everyone is a suspect, and the clock is ticking. Is there anything you'd like to add? Because again, I'm always nervous about giving away spoilers, but if there's something you would love to add, we would love to hear it.
It was Mike the doorman. He did it. He took it. He took the violin. It was him the whole time. No, I'm
Did
just kidding.
suspect the hotel.
No, that pretty much encapsulates the premise of the story, and that was wow. It makes me want to go read it again. That was great.
Wonderful. Well, if we're ready to brave the storm, we'll go ahead and get started.
We
Chris,
are ready.
kick us
We
off.
cannot wait to dive down deep, and we wish we had more time to get into this story. So I want to say first, we love fiction because fiction is real. It's based on truths that it's sometimes in life we can't express better than in a story. And that's what you did here. You told us a story, and you showed the reader a lot of truths that need to be known. So you showed us that for a black man, life sometimes isn't fair. In fact, it can be cruel, vindictive, judgmental, and downright evil. This quote from your book hit me so strongly. So here's what you do. If you're a black guy trying to make it work in an unfamiliar world, you just put your head down and you do the work. You do twice as much as the white guy sitting next to you, and you do it twice as often, but you get half as far, but you do it. You just sit down and you practice over and over, and eventually somebody turns to you and says, wow, you're way better than I expected you to be. Whoa, just that. Just you got to sit and listen to this and understand it and soak it in. It's not fair. As a reader, so much in this just made us so angry. You know, we felt so much for this character. What I wanted to ask you is, how did you make this character Ray, this beloved character who we all grew to love and root for, how did he overcome these obstacles? What character traits does he have? And maybe what do each of us need to either have or find as character traits to overcome obstacles like this?
Fantastic questions. For Ray, it was a real awakening for him when he discovered that, wow, everyone is not so nice and everyone doesn't have my best interests at heart. It was really eye-opening for him. I think he was more naive than anything else. You know, why? He was a normal kid. You know, he just wanted what he wanted. He wasn't hurting anyone or anything. He just wanted to do the best that he could. And he ran into so many obstacles and things that he never thought that he would have to go through. It's called a black tax. And I know that sounds kind of, you know, that might be trite sounding, but it is a real thing. And to have to go through things, you know, you think, why am I having to do twice as much as the person next to me? And I don't get the recognition. You know, people looking at me as I was growing up playing the violin, you know, they just kind of looked at me like, who is this? Why is this guy here? You know, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? this isn't for you. Why don't you do something that you're going to be successful at? This is not your type of music. And we have to hear things like that all the time. And the comment, "Oh, you're so much better than I thought you would be," that is kind of a backhanded, it's supposed to be a compliment, but it really isn't. Why wouldn't you expect me to be as good as my counterpart? I went through the same training, I listened to the same music, I practiced just as hard, maybe even harder. Why would I not be as good? So the expectations that people have, just based on what you look like, that can be very hurtful as well. And for Ray, had he not had such a solid foundation with a mentor, that's really what helped propel him and get him through the hard times that he inevitably, that we all have to go through sometimes. His grandmother, who was my actual maternal grandmother, and I could hear her voice as I was, I literally heard her voice over my right shoulder as I was typing her dialogue. She was just one of the sweetest women on the face of the planet, and she never had anything bad to say about anyone, regardless. And had he not had her, he knew that she rooted for him. He knew that she loved and respected him regardless of what he wanted to do. Zero judgment. And I think she was the first person that really taught him what humanity was, what it was to truly be loved. And holding on to that, when you don't have a lot going on and people are constantly against you, that one thing, you just need that one thing to hold on to. And I think Ray's Grandma Nora, really solidified that for him, and she grounded him. And he could draw on her strength and her love when things got tough, and things got tough very often for Ray.
Very. And you showed us this is a really big truth with the youth of today, and you're a mentor for a lot of kids, K through 12, and then also in the Philippines. But you showed us that for a young person, who, even for us who are matured, but when you come to a difficult place in life, you're going to do one of two things. You're either going to say, "That's it, I give up. They're right about me. Why am I here? I don't belong here. What was I saying to myself? Am I crazy?" Or you're going to say, "No, this is going to make me fight even harder because you're telling me I can't do it, and I'm going to prove to you that I can." But we need a mentor. We need like one helping hand. And for you, you're so blessed that it was your grandmother, that she was a part of your life. And we have people in our families like that too. And we have people who didn't want to see us succeed. We got a little of both. But you showed the reader that it doesn't have to be your child or your niece or nephew. It could just be somebody that you know of or know about, somebody who's trying to do what you're doing, that you could offer a helping hand. And it spoke so huge into the life of Ray. Where would he have been without that?
Absolutely. I get asked the question, without Grandma Nora, what would Ray have done? And I like to think that he probably would have just fallen into some really bad habits. He may have started drinking, maybe drugs, maybe selling drugs. His mom wanted him to quit school and or graduate early so he could get a job at Popeyes. That was the height of aspiration for him from his mom. But the mentorship aspect, I had so much help growing up, with my musical career, with college. I had so much help. And even when I was in high school and I needed an instrument, we couldn't afford, it was either pay the light bill or pay the rental on a violin. Of course, the lights went out. Went out, not went out. I'm sorry. So just the amount of help, and people they saw something. This kid has something. He loves what it is that he's doing, and what can I do to help? Just that one gesture means so much to so many people. And for my students, I always I try to show each and every one of them that they are important. I acknowledge all of my students every single day, every one of them. If it's just a hello, how are you? Nice outfit, love the hair. Hey, that was really funny. Anything. I try my best to give them acknowledgement, to let them know that they are important, and anything that they need. You never know, that one act of kindness could be life changing for someone, that one day, you never know. And I've always wanted to help give as much help as I have gotten, because I would not be where I am. And I'm not talking about, the book or anything. I mean, just in life in general. There are many times where I have gotten so angry and so just mad at everything. Why is this so hard? Why do I have to go through this? Why are they treating me this way? And it's okay to be angry. I think you should be angry. It's just how you decide to act upon that anger. Am I going to let that break me, or am I going to use that to make me stronger? In the moment, you really don't think that it's going to do anything, beneficial for you. But, you take a breath, you step back. Okay, you know what? I can deal with this. I've dealt with it before. I know how to get through this. It's going to make me stronger. And it truly does. And, I've had people after reading this book, they say, Brendan, you know, I, I, how on earth are you as nice a guy as you are after going through everything that you've been through? I don't get it. I'm like, I could have gone the other way. I could have just let everything sour my attitude towards life, but why not? I would rather be happy, and I like to see other people happy, and I use whatever tools I have to make that happen.
Well, we're glad that you did, and we're glad that you are where you are and doing what you're doing. Thank you, Brendan.
Yeah, I have a question for you, but I want to comment on something you just said. And that is part of what you're doing through this story is helping people unlearn some biases they may not think that they had. Like you were talking about, oh, well, that was a little, you're better than I expected. Well, another one is this is a Black classical violinist. No, no, no. This is a classical violinist who also happens to be Black or female or whatever. But it's kind of a very subtle way of putting you into a separate category, right? That's a Black
Oh yeah.
classical violinist.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was excellent in your book. I kept thinking about those very subtle aspects of how we think,
Yeah.
I had a question I wanted to ask you because as a classical musician, Ray uses his gift to both entertain and thrill people all over the world, which comes across loud and clear. There were times where it was just music to my ears in this story. It was amazing. But he's also using music to tell his story, the story of his family, and also some of these larger societal issues that we are wrestling with. Is music a way, do you think, for Ray to express things that maybe words are inadequate to convey? Is that to me one of the great gifts of music generally?
Absolutely, 100%. Music is the only entity that you can go across the world, not speak the language at all, and have an instant connection with someone else. You can't do that with anything else. Music is that powerful. And just people all have people are all connected through music. It's like, okay, so you're playing Mozart. Oh wow, that was kind of fun. But not only can I play Mozart, I can play Eminem, I can play Dr. Dre, I can play Snoop Dogg, I can listen to and appreciate everything. But you never would have known that had I not drawn you in with the classical music. And that's what got you, and it's bringing you in, and it's getting you to understand that music is so multifaceted and it's for everyone. It's not just, oh well, you can only do this if you look like this, or if you only have this zip code, or if you only have this bank account. It's not, I don't know where that stereotype came from, but for some reason it continues to be perpetuated. And I'm really happy that stories like this are getting out to people that, yeah, this is actually for everyone. I can enjoy classical music and not be looked at like I have like five heads because I should be listening to Snoop Dogg instead of, Bach. And that's just one of the many facets of how powerful music actually is, and it truly is for everyone. And in the story, I wanted to convey, Ray gets through. Not only he spills his emotions to everyone. He's laid out there raw through his playing. And it also transports the listener someplace else. It's like, I when I was writing the descriptions of the music, I was using a ton of technical terms, being a violinist. I'm like, yeah, we'll do this staccato, sforzando, this. And, I let some of my friends read it and they were like, I have no idea what this is. I don't know what this is. And I had to go back and use some analogies. What would I think? And I remember one specific instance in the book where Nicole was asking Ray to play something a little slower. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay. So when I play it the regular way, it's like Cupid's zipping from cloud to cloud. But when I slow it down, it's like they're tiptoeing from cloud to cloud, and they don't have to run so fast, and they can actually have fun and frolic and listen to the music. I was like, wow, when I let my friends read it, okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, I totally get it. Is that what it's like when you play? Yeah, every single time I'm transported someplace else. It's not Brendan anymore. It's the music that takes over when I get to do that. So I really wanted Ray to express to the audience as a reader, as a listener, what it feels like to experience music at its fullest. And it's just it's sheer beauty. And everyone should have an opportunity to enjoy that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. This book did that. It appealed to all your senses. And, listening to powerful music along those lines. This is why I kind of like heavy metal a lot.
Yeah. Me too.
uh, because it expresses things that you can't always just casually convey to somebody in a
Right,
conversation.
right.
Go ahead.
Well, in part of the book, when he lost the violin and he started to play, there was a scene where he said, I'm playing it, but I'm not feeling it. I got to feel it. And that hit me so strong. Even for us who are not musicians, we listen to a song, we feel it.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a part of us. It's like our history. Then we hear a song and it takes us back. Oh, yeah, I was in the 8th grade and this happened to me. And music is important. It plays a huge part. You showed us that so richly through that character, Ray, in a world that most of us don't live in because we're not musicians. So we like to listen. Now we got to see what it's like to create. What goes behind in the back scenes, what goes on. And it was just a treasure. Thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about Ray's grandmother, who now we know is similar to your grandmother. So now we love her even more. And she says to him, she offers these words of wisdom that I read this and I had to sit and think about this for a while. When you begin to hate them just because they hate you, you turn into them and they win. Truth. What a truth. But it's so hard for all of us, especially for Ray, this character, but even for all of us readers in our own situations in life. It's so hard not to crave revenge or to even say, I'm going to do exactly what you did to me. You did that to me, so I got to write. It's so hard. I loved that she said by overcoming you, by still not becoming them, you win. That's how you really win. Is this something that your own grandmother instilled, and where'd you come up with these wonderful words of wisdom?
I got that not only from my grandmother, but from a ton of other mentors, having been through experiences where okay, don't get me wrong. It's okay to be angry when situations like this occur. It is. I think that's a common misconception that, well, you shouldn't be mad about that. And it's like, no, you have every right to be angry. It's how you react. That's really what determines, the type of person that you truly are. And I got that from my grandmother. I got that from a ton of mentors. I would go and play something, and someone would just kind of give me a backhanded compliment, so they would call it. And I'm just seething with anger. I did what I was supposed to do, and it didn't turn out the way that it was supposed to turn out. And I had a teacher once who told me, Brendan, it's okay. What did you learn from this? Don't let that experience take away from what it is that you got. And I always thought about that. I was like, wow, I went in and I played the best that I could, and I was happy with the way that I played. And for someone else to tell me that it wasn't good enough, or it wasn't this, or it wasn't that, I can't let that take away from all of the hard work that I put in. And I would tell my students constantly, it's like, look, you're going to face, adversities. It's how you deal with it. I want to prepare you because it's going to happen to you in life. You can be angry, you can be upset, but don't dwell on it. Don't let it shape you. Don't let it shape you. You take it and you turn it into something positive. And I know that sounds really cliche, but it's going to happen. And I want you guys to be prepared because I care about you. And just hearing that someone actually cares enough to give them this advice and say, well, have you gone through stuff like this? Oh, yeah, all the time. How did it affect me? Did it affect me adversely? Yeah, for about 30 seconds. And then you just brush it off and then you keep going. That's what it means to be a human being, I think. You can't let things that just would normally just rip you apart. That's only one state. That's only one state of being for a short amount of time. Let's move on and move forward. And that person who's doing that to you, just think about how sad their life must be, that they've got to bring you down in order to make themselves feel better. You know how you feel when it's done to you. So why would you want to put that feeling on someone else? We're not going to do that. So let's pick each other up. And that's just the philosophy that I've learned to adopt through a bunch of trials and tribulations. And I think it served me pretty well.
It sure did. And it's a lesson for all of us. And also, as you're saying this to me, I'm thinking, it's like a battle a little bit. You got a passion. It's almost like you're in your own little battle. Somebody attacks you. Are you going to fall down? Say, oh, they said this about me. No, you're going to stand up and you're going to refocus and you're going to go for it. And what you just said, what's inside of that person that's attacking you, it's not always truth. It's jealousy. It's their own insecurities, their own failures. I mean, the sad truth in the world that at my older age, I've come to notice, not everybody's going to be for you, even if you are good, even if you're doing good, even if you're out there helping people. Not everybody's going to be in your ear saying, good for you. Special people will be, like your grandmother. You only need one, a good friend, a family member, or somebody, or you need Brendan Slocumb as your teacher saying, keep it up. Thank you.
Absolutely. I want to pick up on that theme of family because that was another theme running through your story that I thought was fantastic. There's a lot of obstacles that come up in Ray's life, and some of them are from his family. Not all of them were supportive of what he wanted to do, and of course, there were many issues that developed as the value of his fiddle became more known. But the combination of these difficulties at times almost seemed insurmountable. I was thinking in my mind, how does he rise above this? I couldn't figure this out. And what do you say to people who want to pursue their dreams, but there's no support network? They don't have a family pulling for them. And, kind of the flip side of that is, what can we do as mentors, as siblings, as teachers to encourage people?
Great question. I think my best advice to people would be remember why you started doing what it is that you started doing. It's because you love it. It called to you, it drew you towards it. There was a reason for that. If you love it that much, you're supposed to be doing it. You're absolutely supposed to do it. With the whole family situation, I'm not gonna give away too many spoilers or anything, but Mom in the book was definitely a character. She was someone, I've heard so many things like, what was up with Mom? Man, I tell you, and first, let me go on the record saying that's not my mom. I promise you that is not my mom in real life. My mom was as supportive as she could be. But I like to make people think for a minute. It's like, was Mom so selfish and self-centered and cold towards Ray because she was just that type of person? Or was it that she honestly did not know how to support him? She didn't see anyone else that looked like Ray being successful in his field, and that was her way of trying to protect him, from I don't want you to be hurt by this disappointment that is inevitable for you, so I'm going to discourage you as much as I can to keep you from being hurt that way. That could have been it. I'll leave it up to the reader to decide that, but you remember why it is that you started doing what you're doing. The first time I heard Mozart, first time I think I was in third grade, and I heard Mozart Symphony Number 40, and it changed my life. It was one of the greatest things I had ever heard. I never heard anything like that. And I grew up in a house with, the radio was on 24 hours a day. I know Queen and ABBA and Stevie Wonder and Michael Jackson and, the Temptations. And I know everybody, and I listened to every kind of music. But when I heard Mozart, I'd never heard anything like that. And I knew that day in third grade, I absolutely loved it. And it was life changing. And that's what I wanted to do, regardless of how many people say, you shouldn't be doing. Why do you like that? They would just question. The answer is always, I just do. I just love it. So my advice to anyone who's experiencing, let's say, negative feedback on something that they, or discouragement on something that they really want to do, remember why it is that you started doing what you do. It's because you loved it. And anything. Why should music or a career choice be any different from anything else that you love? You nurture things that you love. You run towards things that you love. You always want to have more of what it is that you love. This should be no different.
Excellent. I'm so inspired.
Me too. Listen, we need to hear that. Truth be told, we need to hear that. I'm going with that. Brendan, I have to ask you, did your grandmother, is she still living? Was she able to see your success?
My grandmother passed a while ago, and I really wanted to pay tribute to her in this book. And my aunts and uncles, when they read it, they were just like, wow, you got it. You absolutely got her. It's like, of course, I remember her. I remember her blue hair, her pink and green rollers all over the place. Yes, I remember even the Thanksgivings where she would lay out a plate of squash and it would literally sit there all day because no one ate it, yet she kept making it. I don't understand, but yeah, I like to think that she's with me in spirit. And I wasn't kidding when I said I could hear her over my shoulder, when I was doing her dialogue, and I could hear her voice and everything. And just, I think that she is smiling on me right now. I really do. I think she's saying you did a good job. And I'm very happy to have those thoughts. I think that's what she's saying.
Kristen and I do both believe that she's probably watching you and just celebrating and rejoicing that you were able to achieve so much in the music world and also this beautiful book. And I'm going to ask you what you're working on next, like I do all of our authors. But the truth is, if you don't write one more thing, you did it. You did it. Are you going to still write, or what are you going to do next? What's on your radar?
This whole thing has just been crazy. It's been amazing, and I'm grateful every single day. I gotta say, there's days that I'm in my living room, I'm about to play a video game or something, and I just burst out into tears because I'm so grateful for all of this. I was in a really bad way prior to this book coming out, and this is incredible, and it's God at work through me, and I'm so appreciative every day. I have written my second book. It is turned into my editors. It is being line edited right now. That book is done, and I'm really excited about that story. And I'm going to start writing my third book in September, giving myself a short break. I'm doing a lot of traveling right now, but in September, I'm starting book 3. But book 2 goes to print sometime in 23. I'm not quite sure. It's either February or May that the publication date is. I don't know 100%, but I'm really excited about the story. And I'll just give you a brief overview. It nothing like the Violin Conspiracy. A lot of people ask, is it a continuation? No. No, but what I'm doing in each of my books is there is at least one character or one theme from the previous book mentioned in the next one. So from the Violin Conspiracy, one of the main characters was actually named in the very last chapter of the Violin Conspiracy, who plays a huge part in my second book, which is called Symphony of Secrets. And I can give you a brief synopsis of that right now. Symphony of Secrets, it's America's 150th anniversary of America's greatest composer, Frederick Delaney. And his family runs a foundation that helps everyone across the world. Frederick Delaney's name is as synonymous as Walt Disney across the world. And so his family is planning a worldwide celebration. And they hire a musicologist to do some research into why his music was so beloved by everyone, especially in the Black community. And during his research, the musicologist discovers, he may not have written any of this music, and it may have been written by a Black woman who we now know would be living with autism. And the family will stop at nothing to keep this a secret. Symphony of Secrets.
Oh my goodness. I literally have chills. We love it
already. Okay, well, you better come back on when this book is going to go viral, and we're going to help it.
Is this an official invitation?
It's an official invitation.
All right, I'm there.
It's an official bag.
Done.
Well, it's been such a pleasure. I want to say to our listeners, you're going to want to connect with Brendan Slocumb. You can find him on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on his website, brendanslocumb.com. You're going to want to pick up this book. It's an absolute treasure. Hand it down to your kids. Give it to your relatives. Let's make this go viral. It not only is it entertaining, but this is a very important story. Thank you, Brendan. Pleasure meeting you today.
Thank you.
Wow, the honor is mine. Thank you so much, Chris and Krista. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We'll see you again soon.
Absolutely.
Wow, love talking to Brendan
Oh my
Slocumb.
goodness. I literally had chills when he was talking about his second book. And then I had tears in my eyes when he was talking about the inspiration that we need to continue doing what we love and following our passions.
We
You and I
needed
talk
to
about
hear
this
it.
all the time. We did need to hear that.
I got teary-eyed a few times, and I kept saying, now pull yourself together.
Yeah.
I
my
loved, I just loved everything that he said. What hit me so strong is these grandmother's words of wisdom that I'm not even talking about the story anymore, but in each of our lives, in all of our listeners' lives, there are wrongdoings. There are cruel, hurtful words. There are people who make us have self-doubt and tell us, get on the right path, stop being a dreamer. Don't, especially in the art world, if you're an artist out there, painter, musician, sculptor, writer, people say, oh, you can't earn a living, get a real job. We hear this a lot too.
Yeah.
I love that grandmother said, you just put all that away from you.
Yeah.
And you just stay focused. And don't you dare wallow in that and become it. And don't you dare turn around and do that same thing to anybody else. But you stay strong. I'm just going to carry that with me. I just thought that was just a gem.
Yeah. And I loved what he said about, going back to the reason why you are pursuing those things. For you and I, we have stories that are going on in our head. We have characters that speak to us. That's when you have a passion, that's what happens. It's on your mind. You are drawn to it. You want to be in that world. And, there's a lot of ways to see if your passions, line up with your ability. Develop those abilities that line up with your passions. That's a great way to me to be satisfied and very fulfilled in your life.
And I want to say the story about the persecution. There was some things that came up about slavery in the Deep South. And in my opinion, you can't have enough books about this. There's so many untold stories about atrocities that were done. And we can't have enough of it. We have to have a reminder. So if there's a different angle or a different story that was never told, bring it out, tell your story. This is how our future generations are going to learn not to do this. You used a word like unlearn something. I thought that was a cool take on this that I hadn't thought of. We have experiences. How do we get rid of them? Unlearn, you said.
Absolutely. Because when we read fiction, we see ourselves in some of these characters, both good and bad. And I think holding a mirror up to ourselves is very important. One of the ways we do that is through fiction. And especially in this story, because, my children all went through music programs at their school. I didn't see a lot of black violinists. In fact, I can't remember if I've ever seen a black violinist. But then that made me start thinking in terms of, number one, why are we encouraging all young people in their gifts? And, thirdly, I was thinking we shouldn't be thinking in terms of black violinists. We should be thinking in terms of people who are talented, who love to play. I don't care what race or background they come from. We want to encourage those gifts and treasure those gifts when we see them.
Absolutely. And I want to say Brendan said something great to our sound engineer, who also is starting a band. And they're very talented. And Mark Carey has come up with a lot of, people saying negative things to him or whatever. And he's just starting out. And Brendan sat there and said, Mark, you go for it.
Yeah.
So Brendan pretty much said, your passion is your gift. What your passion is what your gift is, and what your gift is, that's what you love, and that's all you want to do all day long, because it's your passion and it's your gift, and it's a circle that goes and goes.
Yeah.
And we get one life. You may as well go for it. I
Yeah.
love that he said that. So what's on your radar, Kristen?
Well,
Got a little takeaway here?
yeah, some of the things that came up today, I wish we could talk about all of them. But one of them also was this idea of how do we respond to evil, right? Because, in this book, there was a response by Ray, and he chose to respond in a way that his grandmother taught him. And I don't know that there's any one right way to respond to evil, but it's something that we should be intentional about and very conscious of, right? So if I'm experiencing this obstacle, this persecution, these learned biases, how do I respond to that? Because that's what I have control over.
I love that. So that's true. We can't control others. We're never going to control anybody's thoughts or actions, but we can control our own.
Yeah.
And we can control to the extent that they affect us. And that's where our superpower is, right there.
Yeah.
And what my takeaway is, I don't do this. I don't think I do this, but I got to be open to if I do. Do I ever look at any other person who's different than me and make an assumption that's not right?
Yes.
Do I ever say, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this, this is who you are not, this is who you are? And if I do, I got to be cognizant, aware of it, and stop it. And this is the only way the future generations are going to be freed from these irrational, illogical, and really evil prejudice.
Yeah. That's one of the things I love, too, about this book is Ray in the beginning was unaware of racism. He was just who he is, a young kid learning to play. He started to recognize as things happened to him, but look at how important our youth are and raising them right from the beginning to not be thinking in those judgmental or negative or immoral or wrong terms about others.
Mm-hmm. And if you could shelter a kid, you'd shelter them forever. But this isn't life. We're going to get out there, each and every one of us. We're in the real world. So what are we going to do in the real world? Are we going to help the negative, or are we going to shine a light on positive, goodness, kindness, love, helping hand, all that stuff? It's easier said than done. But like Brendan said, just him being a teacher, one person can make a difference. So I just want to say, as usual, thank you so much for joining us here on BOOKSTORM Podcast. Big shout out to our talented sound engineer, producer, and band member starting his own music, Mark Carey. When you hear our opening song, our theme song, that was written by Mark and his band.
Hope you guys enjoyed today's show. It was an amazing one, and we'll see you again next week.
We don't think that song has a title yet, although I highly recommend we call it BOOKSTORM Podcast. Mark doesn't think it's too catchy, so that probably won't be the one. We're going to give you a few storm predictions to pique your interest because we've got a lineup that we're so excited to share with you. We have Lori Lico Albanese and her book Hester. We have Lauren Belfer and Ashton Hall. Ellen Marie Wiseman, The Lost Girls of Willowbrook. The amazing Wade Rouse, a.k.a. Viola Shipman, and The Edge of Summer. Alka Yoshi and The Secret Keeper of Jaipur. Lisa Unger, Secluded Cabin Sleep 6. Meg Waite Clayton and the paperback release of The Postmistress of Paris. Jamie Ford, The Many Daughters of A Fong Moy. John Searles, Her Last Affair. And William Kent Kruger, Fox Creek.
Okay, a couple of those books kept me up all night. In the meantime, stay on the radar, listeners, with BOOKSTORM by visiting our website at bookstormpodcast.com. You can visit us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you'd like to see us in person, or better yet, one of our amazing authors, you can see us on YouTube. You can just search for BOOKSTORM Podcast and it'll come up. Until next time, one of the best ways to brave the storm is to dive down deep into life-changing fiction.